Hello and welcome to the history section of the Tristan channel. So I was going to try to do some carols. Anyway, today I'll be talking about Akhenaten, the Pharaoh who was intersex. Which, when I actually found this out, kind of annoyed me. Because it annoyed me that I only just found out this recently. Because why aren't people told these things? This would help spread awareness and normalise intersex people who are indeed normal. Just give me a second, lighting effect. Because what we fail to grasp is sex is a spectrum. This includes intersex. Intersex variations are not abnormal and should not be seen as birth defects. In fact, any kind of thing along that spectrum is not a birth defect. They are natural biological variations and occur in 1.7% of all births. Most people with intersex variations are not born with atypical genitalia. However, this is common for certain intersex variations. However, with advances in technology and medicine, those numbers of intersex people are increasing because we can go, analyse your genes and stuff. But anyway, although we know, or at least some of us do, accept that they exist is been known common for centuries. Before I start, though, let's set the mood. So as we travel through time, we can just make out the Nile River in the distance. We land in Egypt roughly 3,000 years ago and have an agenda full of intersex deities with no time to waste. Let's get moving. So allow me to introduce you to the first deity on the Egyptian deity list, Atum. The god/goddess Atum was the first deity to exist in the Egyptian pantheon. And also the first intersex deity in the group. I always get that pantheon wrong. Besides being a massive overachiever for all of this, and the kind of deity version of that kids always asked to be in line leader field of on the field, as it were, goddess also sired several children. But how did Atum reproduce his offspring? Essentially, the same way a lot of gods do, by vomiting them out their mouth. Charming. These offspring would later grow up to give birth to pretty much the entire pantheon of Egyptian deities. Yes, I pronounced it right. As we understand it today. Atum was not alone either. There was also Hapi, the intersex deity of the Nile River. As if being able to add an accolade like that to a job resume wasn't already incredibly cool, Hapi also had blue skin. Kind of reminds me of Star Wars, doesn't it? Along with their blue hue, Hapi rocked an androgynous societal look with feminine associated large breasts and a round stomach and a masculine associated wrap skirt, an Egyptian false beard, an accessory designed for nobility. Also, Hapi, sorry for mispronouncing, would have also been considered genderqueer by modern standards due to their attempt to indicate their androgyny in androgynous associated gender presentations. The last of the better-known gender and sex variant divinities in the Egyptian religion is the god/goddess Shai/Shiite. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. I just call him Shai now. Shai was a gender-fluid god/goddess who would be referred to alternately with the name Shai when female and Shiite when male. The deity was also discussed with both male and female pronouns used interchangeably to describe him, her. Odd that. You see, what people don't understand, intersex and transgenderism was seen back then as divine. What's this got to do with pharaohs, you may ask? Well, we're going to visit, just follow me, watch crocodiles. We're going to visit someone special. The palace we're going to is the home of Akhenaten, a pharaoh who ruled for 17 years during the 18th dynasty of Egypt. Oh, look at you. If Akhenaten doesn't sound familiar, probably because they were pretty average. Oh, emotional damage! Pharaoh as far as beings endowed with absolute power go. However, come on, folks. You've got to know his wife, the very beautiful Nefertiti. Nefertiti was so much more than just an aesthetically pleasing. Wasn't just Akhenaten, her partner in matrimony, was a total feminist themselves. And in the truest feminist form, not only made Nefertiti their chief wife, but gave her way more power than any queen in history of the empire. These two were practically co-rulers, a decision which would have been entirely unprecedented for the era. Go about it. Hey, moving on. But what does this have to do with intersections of sex and gender, you may be wondering? You seem to do a lot of that. Well, dearest and most inquisitive listener, you may have noticed I've been referring to Akhenaten using they-them pronouns. This is because, you guessed it, the Pharaoh Akhenaten, it says in Taiwan, was intersex. With wide hips, large breasts, and a penis, as my friend Violet would say, the Pharaoh reigned over Egypt while siring several children. God, busy. What makes this extraordinary is how universally unextraordinary it was to the ancient Egyptians. While the Pharaoh's policies, including the implementation of monotheistic worship of the sun god, were incredibly badly received, their sex and gender were never criticised nor even questioned. Odd that. In fact, their physicality was so widely accepted that most official renderings of the pharaoh were depicted true to form. In ancient Egyptian art, the subjects of the pieces would be rendered in an idealized manner to hide flaws and appear as attractive as possible. Think of this like ancient Photoshop. The fact that Akhenaten's body was rendered as is indicates that the culture viewed the pharaoh's body as an acceptable physicality to the degree that it did not need embellishing. Plus, the gods were intersex. Anyway, so moving on, there's a little bonus bit of information here. Hatshepsut, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, the transgender / non-binary pharaoh. Yes, as you guessed, my information continues briefly. After Queen Hatshepsut, sorry if I butchered that, assumed the throne of Egypt, she began alternating between male-associated and female-associated attire, while the majority of his/her attire kept one constant to his/her ensembles. The extravagant wood false beard worn by pharaohs. Speaking of the word pharaoh, this leads us seamlessly into our next fact. Hatshepsut renounced the title of queen to assume the moniker pharaoh, a title previously reserved exclusively for men. This decision occurred quickly after acquiring the throne. They would also use both pronouns. They also rendered he, she in art as gender ambiguous by the end of his/her reign. It's funny they had no problems using pronouns, isn't it? Reign, sorry. Depiction of Hatshepsut constantly possessed a conventionally ancient Egyptian masculine physicality, shirtless, without breasts, while incorporating the conventional feminine attribute of a waist smaller than those of his/her cis male counterparts. Again, I think it's funny that Egyptians use pronouns with no hassle. It's interesting, that. Anyway, lest we forget that the members of the LGBTQ community are much, much more than one-dimensional caricatures. Hatshepsut is here to remind us she is widely regarded as one of the most successful pharaohs in the history of ancient Egypt. We're talking they reigned for a lengthy 22 years. You go, during which she brought about one of the most tranquil and successful eras of the empire that the empire would ever see. The other thing about Akhenaten, they weren't just depicted as an intersex, but their remains showed physical signs of being intersex. So, wow, whew. There you have it, a video on Akhenaten. As you see throughout history, there are loads of examples of how normal and accepted trans and intersex people were. And also that pronoun thing is interesting. They used them back then, and we're making a fuss. Anyway, if you like this video and found it informative, hit the like and maybe even share to spread awareness. And if you're new to the channel, then please subscribe. It would be great to have you. And until next time, take care and be well.